This is a reading comprehension passage with a set of 4 questions. Let's look at the first question. Which of the following options best explains the sentiment that the voteman expresses during general elections? To answer this question, let's go back to para 2. It says, what he meant was its extension through the English-speaking classes in India. The voteman naturally did not mean the British Raj that had ended 70 years ago, but its extension. So what we are saying is that British Raj, which has ended 70 years ago, has left some legacy which has divided Indians on the basis of language. And that is what the boatman meant. This gives us answer as B, the British Raj that ended over 70 years ago, but Indians still experience the power structure it has left behind. So this power structure refers to the English speaking class, which is considered elite in India as compared to other language classes in India. Option A is incorrect, as the passage does not talk about many negative systems into the country. Option C is incorrect because both options C and D talk about Indian class system and Indian social class system, which is not what the primary focus of passage is. Let's look at the next question. This question says, which of the following options refers to the irony of Hindi film industry? While discussing the Hindi film industry, the author has said that it's quite ironical that although most movies are made in Hindi, people prefer an actor that is English speaking. And even if an actor does not know Hindi, they are okay teaching him Hindi from scratch, but they would not want an actor who knows Hindi but does not know English. Let's look at our options. Option A says the Hindi film industry is no different from the rest of India in the known bias it flaunts over English language. We don't know what is the situation in the rest of India, although author talks about division of class based on language, but we do not know whether in all professions in India the same bias occurs. Option B says that the Hindi film industry prefers its actors to be bilingual despite making films primarily in one language. This option can be correct, but author is not saying that the Hindi film industry prefers actors to be bilingual. What they want is that the actor has to be English speaking. So option B is also incorrect. Option C says the denial of work in Hindi film industry is not based on acting talent but on linguistic knowledge. This is too general, and we do not know whether it's based on acting talent or not. It is a possibility that Hindi film industry wants actors who are good in acting but also good in English. Option D says the industry produces films in an Indian language and yet chooses actors first on the basis of whether they know English. And this explains the irony that although films are not usually made in English, but they want an actor that is English speaking. So correct answer to this question will be option D. The next question says, what does the author mean by the scorched earth policy? To answer this question, we need to go back to para 3. India has had languages of elite in the past. Sanskrit was one, Persian another. They were indeed to unite an entity more linguistically diverse than Europe. But there was perhaps never one that bore such an uneasy relationship to the languages operating beneath it, a relationship the Sanskrit scholar Sheldon Pollock has described as a scorched earth policy as English. So what we are talking about is an uneasy relationship to the languages operating beneath it. Now let's look at our options. Option 1 says leaving a country with no language to call its own. That's not true because India has languages of its own but prefers an English speaking crowd. Option B says dividing a country based on its languages. This is true as the author has said that country is divided in two classes, one which is English speaking and the other which is not. Option C says ensuring that the previous languages are subjugated. He is not talking of previous languages, but he is talking of languages which exist right now alongside English. Option D says leaving a legacy of nothing where there was plenty. This is too general and does not really talk about anything related to language or India. So the correct answer to this question will be option B. This question says, which of the following options best brings out the significance of the last two paragraphs? Let's read the last two paragraphs again. It says, in my own world, the world of English writing and publishing in India, the language has wrought neuroses of its own. India, over the past 3 decades, has produced many excellent writers in English. The problem is that none of these writers can credit India alone for its success. They all come to India via the West, via its publishing deals and prizes. India, when left to its own device, throws up a very different kind of writer, a man such as Chetan Bhagat, who though he writes in English about things that are urgent and important like life on campuses and in call centers, writes books of such poor literary quality that no one outside India can be expected to read them. India produces a number of such writers, and some justly speculate that perhaps it is the authentic voice of modern India. But it is not the voice of a confident country. It sounds rather like a country whose painful relationship with language has left it voiceless. Let's go back to our options. Option A says successful Indian writers are usually not those who write from India. He's, we are not talking of successful writers. We are talking of writers here who produce books of great literary quality. Now, although Chetan Bhagat, as mentioned in the passage, is a successful writer, but he is not the kind of writer that can produce a confident image of literary India. Option B says homegrown Indian authors writing in English do not reflect a positive image of a country confident in language. This is true from the last paragraph, as author mentions that writers like Chetan Bhagat are writing books of importance and based on important subjects, and these are popular as well, but they are popular in India, not outside India, and the kind of literary work they produce does not portray an image of a confident country. Option C says homegrown Indian authors are not successful abroad and hence cannot be said to reflect a successful literary image. Although the part 1 of this option is correct, that homegrown Indian authors are usually not successful abroad, but the second part of the answer is not correct, as we are not talking of a successful literary image of these writers, but we are talking of an image of a country which is confident in its language and literature. Option D says India has no authentic authors who can be called the voice of the country. The author does not describe what is authentic author, so we cannot really take this option as the correct answer. The correct answer to this question will be option B.